Hey, I'm still doing this. My comic book thoughts blitz, trying to catch up on a ton of stuff, so it'll feel easier for me to move forward and do my comic book thoughts on a more regular basis. Hopefully, I really will stick to that once I get this done. This is my capes and tights grouping of comics. Lots of superhero comics, sort of, or most of them are superheroes, I guess. There's always you start saying things are superheroes, and then you start seeing them kind of blend over. I mean, this is a superhero comic book. Supermen. What else can it be? It is the superhero, the first superhero, the guy who started it all, without whom comic books would not be what they are. They may never have become popular in the United States without this guy. Who knows? And as many of you know, this is Neal Adams, right? I think it's the first time he's written Superman himself. He's obviously drawn lots of famous Superman covers. Only a few interiors, I think, including the famous Superman versus Muhammad Ali, or Muhammad Ali versus Superman. Anyway, all my experiences reading Neal Adams have been dicey at best. With reading things he's actually written himself. So given my lowered expectations, I had fun with this book. And maybe I'll try and remember to link below. I just saw a review by, pardon my itchy nose, just saw a review by Edwin, StrictlyComiX with an X. He just reviewed Supermen, The Coming of Supermen by Adams. This same issue here, and he made a lot of, like, as he pointed out things that I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. Like well, I don't know if I should spoil things from the end, but anyway, there's lots of little details there's cool. One thing is this idea that Superman kind of ends up adopting this little boy because no one else will take him. It is questionable, the whole thing of if Superman's fighting in the Middle East or saving people in the Middle East, why can't he solve more problems there? Usually the Superman level powered superheroes avoid, real world issues. But Neal Adams quickly takes it into kind of an unreal world. Edwin also pointed out how this character is in blue and green, but the boy tells Superman to trust him. Anyway, so I think, especially with the added wisdom of Edwin, listening to him, I'm viewing this as a comic book with some good ideas, but I still don't like Neal Adams' general storytelling style as a writer. He skips from idea to idea and doesn't connect them that well, doesn't make me buy into them that well. I think I will continue to buy these because I am fascinated by Neal Adams' art. More for the art he did back in the day, obviously. This art strikes me as there'll be a really good drawing, and then a really sloppy drawing, then a really good drawing. And maybe less care is given to the storytelling of the panel placement and arrangement of things, into that kind of storytelling, as he used to when in his sort of most famous period in comics. If you're not super familiar with Neal Adams, he was kind of a superstar of comics in the late 60s, early 70s, blew everyone away. 1,000 artists since have copied his style, so we probably wouldn't have Jim Lee, we wouldn't have endless numbers of people. Ivan Rice, all kinds of people are doing Neal Adams to one extent or another, and everyone kind of, or huge numbers of guys and maybe gals who were starting out as artists in the 70s, fell under his influence, and that influence has spread. So to someone who's not familiar with him and looks at it, it might look like a poor man's version of this style that you've been seeing for the past 20 years in a lot of superhero comics. But I think there's still aspects of it that are uniquely Neal Adams. I think in his best work, there was a lot more expressiveness and just really good storytelling and innovation than just the way he drew. But unfortunately, some of that is gone now. I think he's ill-served by the style of coloring, which obscures slightly his line work, but his inking is a very line-heavy, lots of scratches and cross-hatches, or maybe they're just hatches, not cross-hatches. And I think at times the color takes away from it. I am curious to see where he's going with his intersection of Lex Luthor, Darkseid, the past, Darkseid's father, perhaps, ancient Egyptian history. So it's kind of one of those just sort of crazy things. I just want to see what he's going to do. Given its 6 issues, that seems worth trying so far. So yeah, fun. Also fun, but better done in terms of the writing. I think I already talked about Faith #1, I think, which I liked. I don't know, or maybe I just commented on other people's videos. Faith #1, I really enjoyed the character, and I'm already familiar with the character. I read Faith 0 a couple years ago, and I read Faith in Harbinger, and she is a really cool character. And in Faith #1, I felt like they were very good at a job of being true to the character, but the plot didn't really grab me and hook me in. But it maybe I've just adjusted to the rhythm of it, or maybe the plot has hooked me in better in Faith #2. It still follows all the elements of, her secret identity. It brings in more about her ex-boyfriend Torque, and that's very interesting. The art's very good. They don't try to pretty her up, although I don't know. Her figure kind of puzzles me. She doesn't seem to have hips. I guess there's some people who are like that. She seems to just have a gut. But I don't know. I do enjoy having the two artists work on it. So anyway, yeah, this is a very satisfying comic book. It's only supposed to be 4 issues. I really hope that it keeps selling well, because I know it has been selling well, and that they do more with Faith. She may be their best character over at Valiant, personality-wise. Green Lantern Corps, Edge of Oblivion. I picked this up because of Tom Taylor. I had tried 1 issue of the previous Lost Lantern Corps, or whatever it was called. I think that was written by Colin Bunn. It just felt like a whole bunch of floating around in space, and I wasn't interested in it. This is slightly better floating around in space, but I'm still not super interested, even though it's Tom Taylor, who I've in the past found a really compelling storyteller of superhero stories. But so I don't know if I'll get the next issue. There's some cool elements. There's certainly some cool visual elements, although I hate the return to Guy Gardner's original look. I really like Guy Gardner as the kind of looking like some guy in a motorcycle gang. I like that look a lot better. I'm not sure what this sort of original Guy Gardner look even comes from. Is that like some kind of blue collar look from the 90s or 80s or something? Yeah. So I think the really cool thing was these giant guardians of the remainder of civilization left in this other dying universe, or this universe of the past before ours. So unless I start having a lot of slow weeks, I don't think I'll be picking up #2 of this until I find it in some cheap bins. Maybe I'll get it in a trade or read, probably most likely get in cheap bins or read in a digital sale someday. Tom Taylor, I hope Tom Taylor still has it. He was really good on some other earlier DC comics. It's interesting. He went off to Marvel, and now it seems like he's coming back to DC. I don't know what's happening there. Maybe he'll be a big part of their rebirth. So, speaking of someone who used to be at DC and then moved over to Marvel, I've been reading Charles Soule's take on Daredevil, and I should say Charles Soule's and Ron Garney, because Ron Garney does this amazing, almost black and white artwork where they just put in a little bit of color, and I really dig the artwork. And I think it's good that it's nothing like Chris Samnee, and it gives the whole book a completely different look than the Chris Samnee Mark Waid run. And I had a kind of warning from other people, because I read it after other people got to it, that this was a radical departure from the previous run. And some people really hated it, and that kind of lowered my expectations. But coming into it not expecting much, but expecting it to be completely different, I guess I am enjoying it a lot. It feels like Charles Soule doing Batman, to a degree, including with the weird, slightly supernatural kind of villain with 10 fingers. Seems like a Batman kind of villain. He's training this sidekick. The scenes with the sidekick are a lot of fun, in my opinion. I guess the sidekick is an illegal immigrant to the United States, so that's also very interesting and intriguing. I mean, look, this is incredible art. As I hold it up, I am distracted by it and forgetting what I want to say. But so yeah, I'm really enjoying Daredevil. Like almost all the other Marvels that I do get physically, I'm getting it from a print subscription from Marvel, where I get it for roughly 50% off. But it comes late, and occasionally comes a little damaged, but not too often, really. Another Marvel that I'm getting through the mail is A-Force, and I subscribe to this for my daughter because she loves Dazzler. That's how we started picking up A-Force during the Secret Wars, and she enjoyed it a lot, so I subscribed to it because we'd save a lot of money that way. And so now they've rebooted after Secret Wars, and no one but this character here, Singularity, remembers what happened during Secret Wars. So she's trying to get back together the gang, while this strange other creature, I think they're calling him Antimatter, is attacking and wants to kill Singularity. So it's kind of a mystery of what's going on between Antimatter and Singularity, but that's the event that's drawing these people who don't know they were a team during Secret Wars together. Only Singularity remembers it. And that's all been very good. The first issue was written just by Willow Wilson, G. Willow Wilson, who does such a great job on Ms. Marvel. I think she was a co-writer on this, maybe I want to say with Marguerite Bennett or someone on the Secret Wars version. But so in this issue, another writer who I've never heard of, Kelly Thompson, takes over as the lead writer with G. Willow Wilson as just a secondary writer. It's like with G. Willow Wilson. It literally says with G. Willow Wilson. And this is very noticeable in the dialogue, which is, they say too much. It's like the writer is insecure or something, and so they kind of repeat things a lot and go over the material too much to make sure you get what's going on. So it's just a clunkier read. So I hope Willow Wilson stays. One reason I subscribed to it was because of Willow Wilson, and I trust her to make something good even out of these big group Avenger books, which I don't usually like. But we'll see. I'm sure my daughter will continue to like it as long as it's cool adventures of lots of female superheroes and it doesn't get too bloody, which is the thing that drives her away from comics. So anyway, this is pretty good, pretty fun. I think if I read it on my own, I'd be a little bored by it because of the wordiness and stuff. My daughter's thrill at female superheroes is what keeps it going. And speaking of which, we have just read a couple issues of Starfire. This is the most recent one. I got the Neal Adams variant cover. It's kind of ugly, but I have the original Superman cover where Superman finds his son turning into a monkey on the cover, and so it just kind of tickled my fancy to own this homage to his own original cover. But that's an aside, because inside it has nothing to do with Neal Adams, nothing even to do with Dick Grayson or anything. Dick Grayson is gone from the series. There's a new artist whose name is hard to say, Elsa Chartier, Charretier, I don't know. But she does things in a more cartoony style, but it really works nicely. It's very charming artwork. And my daughter and I really enjoyed this issue. Most of the issue is gals chatting together on their way to what will eventually turn out to be the adventure. They're going to the underground kingdom that this other superhero named Atlee comes from. I don't know if she's original to this Starfire series, or if Atlee and the kingdom she comes from, Strata, is a reference back to some obscure DC thing from the past. One would almost expect Terra to show up here because of the Earth power things. Atlee's powers seem a bit like Terra's. It's fun. Again, it's incredibly wordy. And it reads like the writers just sort of spat out a lot of dialogue and didn't trim it back. Again, my daughter doesn't mind at all. But although I think eventually with this kind of writing, even though she doesn't know that she doesn't like it, that might be a message from the wife. Yeah, pardon that. So everything's fine with my wife and daughter. They're off getting their hair cut, which is why I actually get to make a video when I'm not tired in the middle of the day on the weekend. So it's my daughter might eventually get tired of all this endless chattiness. So the plot doesn't really develop until the last page. I guess I shouldn't show it in case you're going to read this. I guess setting up for some big fight scenes and adventures. I guess the big event of this issue is her pet Silky is reintroduced here as a kind of magical being who picks humans or people as pets rather than being a pet to other people. So she seems Silky, or I think, do they say Silky's a he? He is kind of a deus ex machina, I think, whose powers are undefined but may come in useful later on, I think. Although they have not taken Silky with them, they've left him with Starfire's possible boyfriend to babysit him. I keep wanting to call Silky her. Anyway, it's fun stuff. I think we know it's going to end probably by issue 12, so I guess the previous artist is probably moving on to some bright new project. But I actually like this artist who's been called in to fill in for the tone, the light, cheerful, fun tone of Starfire. She's better than the previous artist, although the previous artist was a very good artist, and I look forward to seeing more by, I think, Emanuela Lupacchino. Okay, and while we're talking about things that kind of appeal to the child, I did not read Spawn with my daughter, because even green blood down in hell would bother her. But I think I've mentioned in other videos that I've been picking up Spawn since I found out Eric Larson was on it with Todd McFarlane, that they were doing the whole book together. With no one else basically helping them, aside from colorist and letterer, but no other inker or writer. And it's a very simple story of Spawn fighting the devil down in hell to save his wife, and the devil wants his hybrid suit back. But what the inner child in me loves is basically the visuals, and just the idea of fighting the devil down in hell. That's pretty good too. But this art is so cool in the way that, if I were 12 and found this comic, I would just be madly in love. I would think these guys are the greatest artists ever, that this was the greatest comic ever. It would make me love comics. And it's doing stuff that could only be done in comics, really. If you translate this into film, it just would have a totally different feel, and you wouldn't have the buy-in and the excitement that you would in comics. So, just awesomely silly if you turn things around, but I'm really enjoying it. So, and I guess the final chapter next month. I don't know if that means Larson and McFarlane will be off it, but I feel like I was looking ahead at previews and seeing their names still on it many months to come. So as long as this team sticks on it, I will stick with it. I did not choose this variant cover. It was the only one available at my shop. I can't even really sort out. It looks like Spawn fighting a big insect. I think it's just because they needed a variant cover. They found this in their backlog of pencil art lying around, I'm guessing. It says that it's by someone named Gerardo Sandoval, who I've never heard of. So, if only variant covers were actually worth a lot of extra money, maybe I would sell this on eBay and find the original cover. Because I just want the outside to look like the inside. But, there's this awesome scene where, the devil is holding Spawn's wife with his giant tongue. Spawn bursts out of the devil's forearm, where he's somehow gotten into the devil's body, bursts out of the devil's forearm and surprises the devil and slices the tongue off to save his wife, at least temporarily. Well, an interesting thing is, where is his wife in this picture? Because the devil's mouth is closed. Is the wife inside his mouth there? Anyway, just perhaps a little continuity error. I would say that as writers, they're just deliver a basic, simple story, but as artists, they know comics. They know stuff you can do in comics. And so it just gives me pleasure watching these two at work together, meaning Larson and McFarlane. Okay, so kind of in a different angle is Surviving Megalopolis by Gail Simone and, is it Jim Calafiore? Someone Calafiore. Jay Calafiore. I think there's a graphic novel that came before this that they did through Kickstarter, or is it individual issues that I can find? It's kind of a twisted postmodern superhero story of the sort you would expect maybe in the 90s. Maybe in the 90s, written and drawn by John Byrne. It seemed very John Byrne-ish to me. Both the art style and the kinds of superheroes were in it, the way the turning, the 90s aspect of it, like post Alan Moore and Frank Miller, but not sophisticated on their level. Just kind of the gimmick of the superheroes who become evil and kind of all the twistedness of that. But all of this said in a very good way, done in a very good way. I think I want to read more issues. I was thinking I would buy the first issue and then probably get it in trade, but now I think I want to get issue number 2, even though it's a $4 book. But it was very good. So, yeah, I think the basic idea is there's this city, Megalopolis, that was supposed to be the safest city on Earth because it was completely guarded by superheroes and full of superheroes, but then something happened that turned all the superheroes evil. And maybe in the previous series, a bunch of people managed to escape from Megalopolis. They kind of made it a sealed city, sealing in the evil and sealing in the victims. So all these rich people who had moved to Megalopolis are now trapped in there. But now someone wants to go back in to rescue someone from Megalopolis. And then there's all these other plot threads with all these other superheroes or superheroes who become evil, that I don't fully understand yet, but seem really cool. And Gail Simone is good at taking things in superhero tropes and twisting them and making them more disturbing. Yeah, I think I'm on this series. Another series that I am on for 12 issues, assuming it goes for 12 issues, which I think it will, probably more, because I paid for the Marvel Mail subscription, is Doctor Strange, and I paid for it because of Jason Aaron. You know, when I heard Jason Aaron on Doctor Strange, I was really excited. I've really liked all of Jason Aaron's Marvel work that I've read. And it does have this really cool art by Chris Bachalo, which I think he colors himself, but someone else inks. And it has a lot of good ideas about the price of magic and everything. It's just not fully clicking for me yet. And yet at the same time, I'm excited just to get more of this artwork and see it. And this issue was particularly strong. I didn't fully understand what we were seeing. The characters seem to understand that these are machines, or that they're attacking, but it's hard to tell. So I guess this is cool artwork that perhaps looks like Alex Nino artwork. I think who was it that pointed out? I think it was Gore Vidal who pointed out that this is like Alex Nino artwork. So, but it doesn't tell the story that well. It's often unclear to me what's going on. I think like in the last issue there were these fight scenes where Doctor Strange is fighting something. I can't tell what he's fighting. I can't tell if he's winning or losing. I'm not seeing how the fight goes. I actually kind of noticed that in Daredevil too, that there were, whoops, that's not a fight scene. There were scenes of action where you could tell it was action, but you couldn't tell, who was punching who was winning, who was losing. I think it was when a whole bunch of, I guess it was in Daredevil when the Hand arrives, and the Hand is fighting all of the Hand and Daredevil and his sidekick are all fighting with the members of the Ten Finger Cult, and you can tell there's lots of fighting going on, but you can't really tell who's winning what, or are people getting killed or hurt, or what's going on. So yeah, I think that's artists who are the really flashy and cool looking think they can get away without the storytelling sometimes, and that's a little disappointing to me. You know what? While I'm at it, because I was hearing someone refer to the Swamp Thing. This is number 1. Here's number 2. As a superhero, like is Doctor Strange a superhero? Is that really a superhero book? Is Leaving Megalopolis a superhero book? They're people in costumes. Is Spawn a superhero book? It's hard to say where superhero and Starfire, is that really a superhero book, or is it just like a soap opera at this point? And I heard someone in their video refer to Swamp Thing as a superhero. Is he a superhero? I guess so. He saves the day. He saves Earth, but he's also a monster. And I am really loving this extremely retro series a miniseries written by Len Wein and drawn by Kelly Jones. I'm a big Kelly Jones fan, and he does a wonderful job of still being Kelly Jones, but showing us the Bernie Wrightston side of Kelly Jones. So you're in some weird stylized version of an early 1970s Swamp Thing comic here. And Len Wein is writing it totally the way he might have written it in 1970 or 71 or 72 or 69. with lots of overwritten, flowery stuff, kind of, not a deep focus on characterization or anything like that. And we get the return of Matt Cable, who I think, was he married to Abby, who eventually becomes the Swamp Thing's romantic person, and I think he was involved with Arcane in some way. So he was a main one of the characters in the early Swamp Thing run. But it's Kelly Jones' art that really sells it. With some other artists, this might not seem so fantastic. But I'm really enjoying this romp into 70s horror comics. So, talking about it, I feel like there's a lot of comics I'm enjoying today, and I am still enjoying superheroes. So, let's see what they can give us. Last night sort of feeling frustrated with Batman to an extent, but there's lots of other... I still enjoy Batman, but there's lots of other superheroes out there to explore.